Imagine the sweet melody of Elvis Presley wafting through the air, the smell of freshly popped popcorn, and the laughter and chatter of teenagers. Welcome to the baby boomer era. The 50s was a time of cultural change and growth, with youth culture taking center stage. Teenagers were defining their own space in society, creating a vibrant, lively scene that we'll explore together. The drive-ins, diners and dance halls were their havens. So where did these teenagers hang out during these years? Let's dive in. The 1950s, an era of sock hops and soda shops. This was the decade where teenagers started to have a voice, and they voiced it loud and clear at their favorite hangouts. As the sun set, the glow of the drive-in theaters lit up the night, becoming a beacon for the youth of the day. These open-air cinemas weren't just about the movies, they were social hubs, places to see and be seen. Meanwhile, soda shops served up more than just ice-cold root beer floats. They were the daytime hangouts, buzzing with the latest gossip and the hottest tunes from the jukebox. School dances, on the other hand, were the places where teenage rituals played out. From the first slow dance to the crowning of the prom queen, these places weren't just locations, they were symbols of a cultural revolution, shaping a generation now known as the baby boomers. The 50s were indeed a time of change and growth for teenagers, but the 60s brought about a whole new era of hangouts. Enter the 1960s, a time of rebellion, rock and roll, and revolution. Teenagers were no longer just hanging out, they were making statements. The popular places to be were no longer confined to soda shops and drive-in cinemas. Instead, baby boomers took to coffee houses, where they engaged in deep conversations about the social and political issues of the time. Music festivals became the heartbeat of the youth culture, places where they could express their newfound freedom through dance and music. The likes of Woodstock became synonymous with the spirit of the 60s. Protest rallies too became a common hangout spot, as teenagers began to use their voices to challenge the status quo. This was a decade of change, where the hangouts reflected the shifting attitudes and behaviors of the baby boomer generation. The 60s were a time of transformation, but the 70s brought with it a new sense of freedom and exploration. Finally, we arrive at the 1970s, an era of disco, freedom, and exploration. Teenagers were now adults, and their hangouts reflected their evolving interests and passions. Discos pulsated with the rhythm of the Bee Gees, concert halls resonated with the sounds of Led Zeppelin, and art galleries echoed with the thoughts of a generation seeking to redefine their world. These places, more than just hangouts, became the crucibles where the maturing baby boomer generation expressed their newfound identities. Indeed, the 70s marked the end of an era, but the memories of these hangouts live on. From the sock hops of the 50s to the discos of the 70s, these hangouts not only served as places of fun and entertainment, but also as platforms for expression and growth. Our journey through time has shown us how these venues evolved, reflecting the changing times and the spirit of the baby boomer generation. These spaces, pulsing with life and energy, left indelible marks on those who frequented them. So, next time you hear a golden oldie or see a classic car, remember the vibrant and dynamic era of the baby boomers and the special places where they made their mark.